Thank everybody for coming today. Superintendent, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Attorney, sir, what's your name
Yeah,
again?
Joe Shields.
And Attorney for the School, Joe Shields, is here. I appreciate you all coming and all being here. Okay, so this is sponsored right now by Councilman Burmaster and Williams. Did you know you were sponsoring this?
It's the way it comes down, it's the law.
it's the-
Your name goes on a majority of my signature.
So, all right. So, thank you. So first of all, I'd like to go around and discuss this, some of the questions. But maybe Brian or Diane, you could first start off with the new legislation and how it's going to work.
Well, what we're proposing to the school board is to keep the collections here, which I agree with. We do make them whole every year, so it's a lot easier for us to have it in-house, so we can keep track and we know. And what we did way back when, I can't even tell you when, we used to make them whole earlier, like I think by December 31st, I really don't remember, it was back in the 90s. Then, it was after I left, they found legislation where we could pay them out over 2 years, correct, Charlie?
Yeah.
Isn't that- okay.
I was here when it happened.
18 months.
We always had that option, it's
That was
just,
too
Right,
we
right.
didn't do it.
We just didn't do it, so that is what we've been doing.
Diane has the floor. Yes, go ahead.
That's what we've been doing. So now we, in good faith, have decided we'll go back to paying them, hopefully by the end of December, making them whole. So to the city, I mean, and regardless, we make them whole. Whether, Joe Schmo pays his school taxes or not, the city of Utica residents are paying those school taxes.
Right.
What will happen probably the end of December, we're looking at probably 3.3 million, 3.4, depending on what the levy is, depending on who pays and who doesn't. So that's where we're at. So we agree with that. We would like to do that because we are the collecting agent regardless. So does that make sense? Question?
Well, yeah, because the collecting and enforcement period.
Two different
no matter-
things.
Yes, so even if the school were to take over collections, no matter what, it's gonna land back in our lap after the second
That's what I meant to
installment
say. I'm
due
sorry. We are the
Yeah.
enforcing
enforcement
agent.
period, so
And-
why just keep status quo? It's-
And Councilman, if I can, it wouldn't even be possible for them to collect and us do the foreclosures. That would not even be possible. It's not feasible. We wouldn't have access to who's paid, when we foreclose on somebody, we try to contact them, hey, what's going on? Did you forget about,
It would be messy.
It would be a terrible mess. You can't,
It'd be
it's
messy
not even
both.
possible. If it was to move, it has to all move, let the school foreclose on these poor people's houses.
They can't though.
I don't think,
There you go. So we have to
I don't think
maintain.
the school
That's-
can
that's
foreclose.
the
You're
issue.
So I
right.
don't even think there's an issue maintaining collection. I think it just comes down to the price. We offered a contract, they agreed to it. That's the contract we offered. Is it enough, Jack? Well, Rome gets 43 for half the collections. I think
Right,
it's
I
okay.
did
It's a
call
3-year
them
term.
today, and they told me
I
they're
think we move
making,
forward.
they receive approximately $43,000 a year for collection,
Okay, that's a
which is
three-year-
a lot less than what we're asking for.
And I mean, we received 18,000 for whatever, 20 years, whatever it's been.
Which
It
is
should have
really-
gone
which
up,
is
like
really
state
low.
aid should have went up, right, Mayor, and everything
Yeah,
else.
exactly.
But, I mean, this is the contract we offered, they accepted it.
Right.
I think we move forward, it's 3 years and
We could always renegotiate next contract.
Or we could still renegotiate, the council could. Mayor, go ahead.
So I just wanted to comment on the cost of collections. So in January, when this became Bill and I negotiating this, the offer that was on the table was $75,000 to collect. The answer then was it's $18,000 or we're not changing anything. That was what we walked into together, right? There was a lot of other components of this that weren't worked out. When we would make them whole by, how we would deal with the past penalties and interests, all the different aspects of this. We spent the last couple of months going back and forth ironing out a proposal, which was turned into a contract. Diana explained most of that Now, what we do have here is, I don't have it in front of me, but it's, I think 30, 32, then 34.
I think it's 30, 33, 36.
Or is it 30, 33, 36? I can't remember. but
30,
it's-
33, 36.
Okay, so effectively, yeah, I wanted more as well, but they wanted to do it for 18, and we were offering 75, and we came to the agreement that we would start at 30 and ratchet it up to 36 over 3 years, and then we would renegotiate for 3 years. We've had no paper, physical signed contract for decades, which has made no sense at all whatsoever. And this has already been sent over to the school board actually passed this already and signed it.
Yes.
So now we are the last step. If we were to open up renegotiations on this again, and Dr. Davis will most likely confirm this as well, the school district would move on purchasing software this year and start collecting the taxes.
Correct.
Which, we discussed this ad nauseum. The city is responsible for making the school district whole no matter what. So now we would be in a position where the school district is collecting the taxes, and then they're gonna send us an invoice for what they couldn't collect. Then we now still have to pay them, and then we have to go collect the rest of that, and then we still have to foreclose on the houses. It's all the complication that Diana
And we have to audit the school
and the
every year?
controller talked about. And now we have to have different relationships and still work together and still spend the time that we're already spending now dealing with the exact thing now, except we won't be getting any money for anything. We'll still have to deal with all the foreclosures and the collection of the delinquent taxes.
And does their software, is it compatible with ours? That's also.
Yeah, it's a
concern.
whole thing. So we're really trying hard to retain this
Yes,
within the city for simplicity's sake.
yes.
Well, and the school has to also look at,
Judge, you went to the floor next, right?
oh, I have to ask for the
You
floor.
said you wanted the floor
Can I
next?
have the floor as a council person?
Did you want the floor next?
All right, thank you. I'm all set. I just wanted to explain some of the process, because it was a lengthy process.
Yeah, let's let
No,
everybody.
And we
go
went
ahead.
through
Let the judge talk before a council person.
a lot of
Go ahead.
it.
Yep, he's elected, he's appointed, I'm elected. Go ahead,
Go
Judge.
ahead, Judge.
Pardon me, just say, well, anyway, first of all, I'd like to say to whoever sends matters down from the Corporation Counsel's office, this is the document I got. I got it yesterday. I am not noticed on the document, and our rules are that I have to get every piece of legislation that comes here and review it.
This-
So I read this thing for the first time yesterday. I had some questions. I also think that my recollection is that the school collection matter is one of the real property laws of the state of New York. I think it's real property. Tax on it's a real property law, the 112 or something like that. That's my
Mike,
recollection.
the last council.
It's not really the
That's what it
education law,
is.
it's real property law. And yes, the city collects the taxes. The document here, did the attorney for the school board?
Yeah.
Is that you, sir? I consider it like a landlord's lease, that the old thing in the joke when we practice law. It's a landlord's lease. The tenant really doesn't have much, the landlord gets everything. The city taxpayer here really takes all of the heat on this matter because we pay money that we're probably never going to collect. So when I read this, I had a few questions, and then, of course, yesterday when I read it, I went home, my computer went dead. Don't ask me why, but I got it going late this afternoon. As I know there's a real property tax, a real property law in the state of New York that involves the collection of school taxes. I know that, because I remember I've been doing this for 26 years. But a couple of questions I had to ask. You know the $2 million we have to pay them by August? Is that in the city budget, Mr. Comptroller?
I
Where's
do
that a
not-
bond item?
No, it's not in the budget, but
Well,
we do
I
have
see here,
the
at the very
ability to
last
pay.
thing I think I read, is that the city of Utica, in this document, is
Yeah.
agreeing to pay $2,774,000 by August 5th of '24, which is a month away, less than a month away. And my first impression of theirs, where are we getting the 2,774,000, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I can
It's-
answer
yeah,
that. We're-
the
Some of
controller-
it is money on hand,
I was
and
talking
we
to
will
council.
take out a RAN, which is a short-term loan from Utica, Bank of Utica, if we need to. We have a very good relationship.
Yeah.
And that works for everybody. We wanna make the school whole. The last thing we wanna do is create any problem with kids and education and that type of thing. We wanna make them whole as quick as possible, and then we move on, we collect the rest of the stuff. You know, we're losing revenue now with the new mortgage deal, because when we auction these houses, we're not gonna make any money anymore, you know, so we're losing revenue left and right on this deal. It's not a winner for us, but I think it's a winner for the kids in the school, because we handle it, you guys don't wanna deal with it.
So to be clear
So that's
though,
the thing we have to
I
do.
did wanna clarify one thing. The money we collect for school taxes is not part of the budgetary finances of the city of Utica, period. It's not the same thing. So to ask a question, where are we getting the money was collected and placed into an account, a non-interest bearing account, which holds the school tax collections, and it's there. So we just have to give them their money.
Or some of it's
And,
there.
and also, they are forgiving.
Is there sufficient
Yeah, 'cause
money in
this is all
that?
said and done, about $1.5 million that the city could possibly owe them, which I
Correct.
think is another important component
Correct.
that everybody seems to be missing.
Which they did agree to.
And they actually signed it in the contract, I mean, so, again.
And
I did-
this will work
Hey,
much
whoa,
smoother.
man,
Come to the meeting.
One question.
The
Is there
objection was-
sufficient money in that account to pay the money
There
that
should be.
we're talking about?
Yes, there is, Judge. There is cash in that account, yes.
Pardon me? Is that yes? The answer
Yes.
yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, under the law, the state law, we had 2 years of grace. Now, we're changing that.
We're going back,
And
yeah.
Mr. Brown told me that the reason that he gave me that they're gonna change it is because it works to our advantage. Now, quite frankly, because I just got this yesterday, I didn't have an opportunity to discuss with Mr. Brown, and maybe it's a good time for you to tell me why the present arrangement is better than the 2-year grace we had under the old arrangement. And first of all, I don't think we ought to pay them any interest unless we collect interest.
Correct.
I think that, I believe that they're entitled to interest when we collect money and there's interest involved. But if there's no interest involved, I don't think we have to pay them the money and interest that we didn't collect. But if we collect it, I think you have to share it. But, Mr. Brown, can you tell me why you think this is better than the 2-year that the state law provides?
Yes, and first of all, the $2 million you're talking about, paying ours, we owe them that money. The only
Okay.
issue is when do we pay them?
Okay.
So that, we had real problems several years ago, so we kept putting back and delaying when we would pay them. Then the question goes with interest, as you correctly point. It's only interest that the people who ultimately pay. But most people do pay. You get that first round, after that first round of delinquencies, most people do pay. And the interest is considerable, because it's 1% a month. I mean, you got a savings account, you get 1% a year. So it is considerable. We do collect, they'll probably have the numbers on how much we do collect in
Yeah,
interest.
we write off about 300,000 a year when we foreclose on properties, so that's all we end up writing off, is about
Yeah.
300,000 in old school bills a year when we take the properties.
So, yeah, we do collect interest, but
That's
also-
multiple
we also
schools.
lose.
And
yeah.
what's wrapped up into this package, and it's a package, I mean, you look at one part of it, but it's a package, is they contend that they're entitled to the interest that we collect from the taxpayers. Well, they gotta, it's not that cut and dried an argument. And they're giving that up, and it is significant, it is significant.
Charlie, can you touch too onto the fact of what the, and maybe the comptroller's office can, what the importance is of actually paying them early with
Yeah,
with the
so
pass component, now
Once we
that we
pay them off
actually.
early, Judge, once we pay the levy early, after that, all collections belong to us, including the interest. So
We're
we,
gonna get blamed for
you know,
these
it's a
things
win-win
when
for
they're
both.
on
The school's
turf.
gonna get their levy
Don't
paid
hold
off
them
a lot
more.
sooner, which helps their revenues. And then we're also gonna be able to keep all the interest, there's no, after that date.
After that date.
Just
Yes,
like-
after that
Prior to
date.
that date, they will,
Then we get to
we
keep
will
everything
remit the
henceforth.
interest.
Because you're talking right now, 2 years of collections that we're waiting to pay these levies. That's a lot of interest that accrues over the 2 years, because people do pay most of it by the end of it, before they close. So it does add up over a 2-year span. But we want to eliminate that, just pay the levy in the first couple months after the second due date. And everything we keep after that, that's all ours. There's no disputes. The school's not coming after anything because they got their levy. We're good. And that's the goal. of why we
The
want
other
to
thing that Mr. Brown would answer this. The other thing is, this is an intermunicipal agreement, correct?
Yeah.
It is not legislation. So, which is, if I found interesting, I don't think there's ever been any City of Utica legislation about this,
No,
not through the years.
wouldn't have the
We,
authority to
all
do
we
that.
ever did was follow the state statute. And I really think, in my mind, I'm thinking of one of the real property statutes of the state of New York. 112 comes into my head, but I don't know if that's even true. I mean, that's a long time. But, so, I believe, and I asked this to Mr. Brown more than anyone else, do you think it's in our best interest to not legislate, but merely keep open contract type arrangement? I think, the more I think about it, I think the open contract negotiation is a better deal, because if something falls apart 2 years from now, you can get out of it. If you've got legislation, you've got a different legislature here, you got a different group of people, you gotta explain this all over again. I think negotiation's a better way to go.
there's not a lot that you can legislate. There's two different things here. There's the initial collection process, which is governed by the education law, which gives you some wiggle room and some ability to negotiate, you know, the terms of that. Then there's the enforcement process, which is after they become delinquent, January, end of December. That's governed by the real property tax law, as you pointed out. That's virtually mandatory. There's nothing you can legislate that changes that.
I
other
didn't
than
think
state
so. It's a
legislation.
state statute.
That's the part that says we have to make them whole and guaranteed. And that's the part that says who gets the interest in the meantime and what the timetables are. There's really nothing there that you can change legislatively.
Do you like this agreement?
I like it, yes.
Okay.
It's been the product of.
I have no
decades.
further questions, thank you.
Thanks, Judge.
Go ahead, Sam.
All my questions were answered.
Yeah.
Bob?
I see that the 2.774, is that the number that
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna pay in
It
August?
might be a little more.
Is that for prior years, obviously?
That is, yes.
What year is that
Actually, we
for?
just made them whole, for the 21-22 year. Apparently, we owe you $3.04.
That's where
It's rounding, there's always a rounding issue, I used to go back and forth with Haley. Yeah, the 22-23 year, actually, I believe we owe you about $1,300 more. There was a foreclosure that was put back on, I can go through that with Ian. And then the 23-24 year, which is the current year, basically, we're gonna make them whole on that. So, yeah, so we do agree with the 2.78 million.
But you mentioned 3.4 and 3.3, was that next year?
That is the current, so at the end of the year, if we make them whole, we're normally short from the total of the levy and what we've collected, about $3 million, or a little bit more than $3 million, give or take. So that's the hole we'd be in, that we might have to borrow to make the levy whole if we're gonna do it at the end of December, or,
Yeah,
or
it's
if we have
roughly-
cash on hand.
It-
So the difference is about 600,000 that we might be short because we didn't collect it.
Well,
People-
we will
people didn't
collect-
pay it.
Yeah, we will.
Eventually you collect it, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a timing thing.
Yeah,
Because we'll be making them whole at the end of December. At that point, it's roughly, it's anywhere from 2.8 million to 3.4, depending.
every year is different,
Every year is
obviously.
different,
But then
yeah.
we send out courtesy reminders in February, and we normally collect a little over $1 million, so when it actually goes to lien in April, we're looking at like 1.5 million on average that goes to lien for school taxes. So we have collected.
And again, that gets collected eventually. I mean,
Yes.
it's a timing thing.
And the foreclosure notices go out and people come in and pay.
Yeah, we get it, most people.
It makes
pay,
the
yeah.
whole thing clean. They want X amount, they get it by the end of the year, they're done, we deal with it from there on. It's just clean, it's a clean deal. If you guys need more money, you gotta budget more, it takes the people unfortunately, but, and then we'll get you that money, so. I think it's the way to go. 3 years, we can look at it again, so.
Great.
I'm good, thank you.
Sounds good to me. Okay. Dennis?
You said the school board was the school district was gonna not worry about the entrance
Prior.
prior,
Right.
okay. That's what I was thinking about. So,
What we collect, then, just so you know, what we collect from from December, well, this.
So when are we gonna
second
vote on
Tuesday in
this?
December,
Yeah.
is it the second Tuesday?
First Tuesday,
First
December,
Tuesday,
that's the
sorry.
collection fee, so the interest that we would have to remit still
Mhm.
until we pay that levy is 4% through November on the first installment,
Mhm.
and an extra 1% on the first installment till the end of December. Because the collection fee legally we can keep, that is the first Tuesday of December, that's what hits after that. So really, it's only interest on the first installment collection, is 4% through November, total of 5 through December, and then once we pay the levy, then that's it, we keep everything.
Okay. I kind of think it's important that we do vote on this next week. I don't know how we're gonna vote, but that we do, because they just announced that they got a new superintendent coming in. So we do want to, make sure he comes up into a clean situation, so.
Give him a nice big check.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, that was our hopes.
Yeah.
To have him, and that's what I've been doing all year, is anytime there's anything that needs addressed, it's been addressed. So he's gonna come in, and my hope is that he'll be out there talking to the community, spending his time
Mhm.
with the community and developing those relationships, and not having to do all the nitty-gritty stuff that I've been doing for 11 months. But
Okay.
the SSO agreement was approved, so I appreciate all of you. That was big. We did that last year, and you approved it again, so thank you. And then this tax agreement is the last piece, so I appreciate it.
I just want to be clear on one thing. We keep talking about making them whole. You keep talking August, and we keep talking in December. So there's 2 payments or 1 payment?
Well, August is the former, I'm sorry, Mayor. August is the former levies that we still owe, since we're
Correct.
pushing it off 2 years.
Okay, but going forward, we'll be making 1 payment in December.
That's why we want to clean up the books up until the new bill, before the new bills, and then we just got to worry about the new bills each year henceforth.
Okay, and so then what extra money are we getting if you're paying at the end of the year? You're getting all that, the X amount of dollars we got to pay them. Anything over that, we keep.
Yes. Once
So
the levy's paid,
what is the issue on this?
I like it.
It's a good deal for everybody.
There's no issue, Joe.
They get their warrant immediately, and we do make
Okay.
some money.
So we're paying them in August for what we
We chase
already
them
owe.
down.
Yeah.
We already have that money because we've been collecting it for the most part, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you.
I'll take the floor. So I just wanted, just to clarify for you, so it is advantage to them because they are getting the money early.
Oh, correct. Instead of
Rather
waiting 2
than,
years.
rather than not, so like back in, I think it was 2012, we came in the position where we couldn't pay them. And we ended up having to take out the revenue anticipation notes. And for us, it's a revenue anticipating, we kind of weren't getting that money that we had coming in at that time. So we were really in a bad situation with the school district, and the school district was actually very kind to the city in that point in time about letting us pay them within those 2 years. Because there was that discussion that they wanted the money then, because they were owed to it at that point in time. So I think, and again, with this agreement, and obviously through your working, I mean, I think that if the school district approved it, there's no reason for us to sit there and say, other than the fact that we might run into the situation, and like Comptroller Morehouse said, we do have a good working relationship with Bank of Utica, and they have let us borrow money almost for 0% interest at sometimes, that if we were to come into that shortfall, that we could borrow from them to pay the school district, knowing that we were gonna receive that money. So we can't take
we
out a
get it
revenue
right back.
anticipation now, unless we know we're getting that money. Otherwise, we end up owing that and then plus on interest. Does that make sense?
Yes, I just got. One, I voted. I just got one quick question. Why now is this coming out and never came out before?
So it
Why?
actually came out, and I think it was maybe October or August of last year.
Last
So
year, but why didn't it ever come
have a
out
budget
before
director
then?
that worked for the city and kind of knew her an advantage to the school district to kind of put them in a position. Not saying that's good or bad, but it got us to the point where there's an agreement now. And I think that that's most important, no
Good.
matter how this came about, that
Okay.
we're not guessing and, hey, listen, if we come to a shortfall, we're not going to leave it on the school district to take that advantage. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
It's good.
And I think
It's a
that having
no-brainer.
this in place and seeing how it works out for 3 years, and like,
Can I piggyback on? to
sure,
what you said?
absolutely.
One of the things when I came is I was going through contracts and making sure everything was in compliance in the district. And then I was working in-house to build a tax collection timeline, and they said, oh, we collect with the city. And then I started digging around looking for the contracts so I could see the timelines. And then more questions happened. It wasn't something that, it was organic how it happened. So I came in because I had just finished working in Geneva City and Oneida City. So I was looking for the document to help guide me as a new superintendent on when I had to go to the board in August and do my resolutions. So that's how it all started, is me asking questions, and then when I couldn't find the document, I presented one. And then we had very active conversations, and I think we ended up in a good spot, so.
And so, in the end of the day, it seems like this is good for the school board, they get their money,
Right,
and we get extra money
correct.
for the interest
And-
over the year.
And again, they negotiated in good faith
In
without
good
coming
faith,
after
and
us for
we
the
don't have to worry about
$1.5
the
million
kids. Right.
and a deficit that we could be in addition. And I, like I said, I appreciate that, and I think that that's important. Moving forward for the fresh start for the new superintendent and all the hard work that Dr. Davis did put into all this. But this discussion did happen, and I know
Yeah, it
that was
did.
brought up back in August. Because that came up at the same time as the police officer negotiation with the
Been
city.
almost a year.
Yeah, and that's why we're kind of in the position that we are now. Yeah, no, but I knew this was a discussion long before, even, I think it was a discussion under the previous administration as well. So congratulations to everybody here, and let's move forward.
Thank you.
I got a couple of questions. The part that, it sounds fine, but the part that, well, the $1.5 million, it's funny how that came out all of a sudden, but, the part that bothers me here, is that we get stuck at the end of the year about $3 million that we have to go, that people haven't paid their taxes on.
That's just at the end of December.
So at the end, so we're.
But we eventually
so
collect most of
We've
it.
paid them, well, this is,
If
see,
not
I haven't
all.
seen any figures on that, and it's good here, but there's really no figures on how much we would make now and how much we are making, the difference on what it is now and what it will, and then how the new contract. I would think any type of legislation you bring down, you would show.
You would never know
It's
that.
hard to
No,
really
because
tell.
some people build up $10,000 in
Well, I
fees
mean,
on
but
5
we have
years
a
of
3-year
taxes.
average, don't we, of what we've done for the last
Yeah,
3
I mean,
years?
you do have-
So we have three, so we're in the hole at the end of the year for $3 million, and it takes us,
No,
it takes us,
no.
well, that,
We get the money.
clarify this for me. So at the end of the year, how many taxes are outstanding?
At the end
Approximately,
of,
it's-
you're talking about
And let's say
December,
in,
when we would make
let's
them
say in
whole?
2023, at the end of the year, how much in school board taxes were still outstanding that we hadn't received?
22-23 year. So 22-23 at the end of December, we would have owed, if we paid them
Well, how much?
December 31st, 2022.
How much was how much was that we
That would
haven't
have been
collected yet?
2.9 million.
So it's 2.9, we've paid
Of
everything up
uncollected
front.
taxes?
Of
Sam?
uncollected, yes.
Right,
It's-
so-
That's what we
Uncollected.
would have paid to make them whole.
So we're
At
paying
December
them
31st.
$2.9 million every year that we haven't collected yet. And it's gonna take us probably maybe 3 years.
No.
No, within a month.
This is the part that I'm missing
No,
here.
you get quite a chunk of change
Help
from
me out.
January through March.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we sent out delinquent tax notices
Right.
from the beginning of April for the fiscal year for anybody who missed any city, school, or county
All
throughout
right.
that time in February, and then we collected about $1 million or so
All right,
before they.
right,
Right, and then-
all
and then it
right.
trickles
So,
in.
all right, so as of, okay, so in 2023, our taxes, which is now we've had some time to try to collect, how much of that $2.9 million have we still not collected yet?
As the 22-23 year, is that what you're, I'm sorry?
Yeah, the end of last year that we're still trying
In
to collect.
22-23, we still owe them $796,000.
So right now, we're still behind $796,000 that we've given the school that we have yet to collect.
Well, we will get it.
So how much is that again?
$796,000 roughly.
So $796,000. Now, that
Getting the interest.
And our
$796,000,
that's what he
collectibles
doesn't
are
get.
higher than that.
what percentage of that you think we'll collect in the next 3 years?
Probably we'll end up getting all but except maybe 100,000 by the time you write off. When I say we write off.
What do you mean right off?
So when we foreclose on properties, we have to write off the back taxes. But when I say writing off,
So
school, you're
what-
talking 3 years of school
So,
tax.
right, so
And then
how about let's take that 796. How much of that in the next 3 years, not right now, because right now doesn't mean we're just forgetting about it, right?
So we'll collect everything but about 100,000 probably on average.
No, I'm not talking about right now, I'm talking about how much actual cash are we
Yes,
getting
so
back?
696,000 and it would leave 100,000 left.
About 100,000?
But
Do we have,
we budget.
do we have,
It's similar,
not
it's,
get.
it's a similar
We budget
amount
for
to
that.
the uncollected taxes that we deal with in our city levy,
right,
which
but
is
we're
in the
paying,
budget.
but we're,
Yeah.
we're eating it for the school system.
But you're doing it in the old system anyway.
State law.
But we're eating it
You
for the
have to
Yeah, but
school
that's
do
by
that.
state law.
You gotta eat.
State law
Is
says we have
everybody
to.
talking?
Because we have.
Stop.
We have.
I'm talking,
When did the law
I'm
become
talking
established?
to this group right here, please.
1960.
Well, we're able to keep all the interest. All right, there's a big difference here.
After you pay the levy in full.
Right, we kept the interest. So was there a big difference, what's the difference if we had kept the interest after the levy? So that's, after 3 years, it's $1.5 million? We owe them, the school system,
You're talking about
they're
back
saying we owe
six.
1 point, how many years did they go
They're
back?
back
They're
6
not
years.
saying
They go
So, in 6 years, $1.5 million, right?
Yeah.
So about every 6 years, so is that part of that $2.9 million?
No, this is just interest, not original, not principal balance of the levy.
So I think the school somehow is making out, and we're taking it on the chin.
No, so, hold on, let me just say one thing.
The kids are.
They signed a
Well, no,
separate,
wait, first of all, wait, how much do you have in your general fund?
they waived,
How much do you have in your general fund?
Jack, that doesn't have anything to do.
Well, no, I'm just saying, what do you have in your general fund? Well, they have a lot more money in their general fund than we do.
Yeah, but when
Budget
you
for
was
your
talking about
levy
the general
for
fund,
Mr.
the
Taxes.
tax,
No.
that
Yeah,
was
you
all that
pass a
money.
budget with a levy, so that you know when uncollected taxes.
Well,
what
I'm
you
just
have
saying,
inside your
I'm just
budget.
saying, I think the old system is, that seems to be fairer than the new system.
the 1.5 million you're talking about is the proposed waived amount. They're agreeing not to come after us for.
Right,
So
because
under
somebody,
the,
somebody
so-
still
Which they have every right.
so that 1.5 million dollars isn't money we would have kept in the first place. So if you're getting at some situation where we were making more money before, we weren't. This whole agreement where we've signed and come to a new agreement where there's a new contract, they're agreeing to not come after us for the back, fees.
And who did it?
Those
pay them?
wouldn't, no, so here's my point though. That money wouldn't have been money we kept anyways. It was their
Well,
money.
it's how we've been doing it for years.
Bill, who didn't pay them? No, I'm serious, like, I mean, we're still responsible for that. That's what you're not
You know, this,
understanding.
are we making more money, Jack? Probably, it's no worse, and the school gets paid, boom, and it's much smoother for us. We don't do it, we just take our money from there on in. It's not a winning proposition for us, but it's state law. We have to make the school whole.
Right.
And that's important because the kids, you gotta make sure education stays there, and you know the city can make them whole. Maybe they can't.
Well,
with
we're
their-
losing
with
money
their
on it.
Yes, absolutely.
Right,
Not because
so
of this
I
agreement.
think.
No,
Emma,
right.
it's-
Not because of this
Samantha,
agreement.
Because
Samantha.
it's very painful.
Samantha,
We're actually
you have to
saving money
stop.
because of
You
this.
have to stop, but let me finish talking.
It's getting painful.
So, no, it isn't getting painful. We're only being charged, we're only charging them maybe $35,000 a year, when Rome is getting $43,000 a year, and we're losing over $1 million a year?
No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're
How much
not.
are we losing a year?
No,
How much are we losing a year?
Okay, pay
No.
attention.
He
That's
just
not-
said it's a losing proposition. What do we actually lose in a year?
Jack, we have to make them whole no matter what.
we have
I
to pay them the money we owe them.
And I wanna make
It's
them
not
whole.
lost money.
People
But I just wanna make them whole and not hurt the citizens of the city in the long run.
You do
Because
un-
in the long run, the citizens of the city are paying taxes twice on this, because we're eating with with the school budget.
They're paying it anyway.
No.
Well, no, yeah, we're paying it, and they're also paying
I mean, if
it.
somebody doesn't pay their school taxes.
Where the city's paying it and the citizens are paying it.
With all due respect, Councilman, you're arguing state law. Under the old agreement, the new agreement, any agreement, you can't rewrite state law. The city of Utica, as a municipality, because the city of Utica School District is wholly contained within the boundary of the city, we are bound to make them whole.
I concur with you on that.
Right, but, and it's the same set of taxpayers, that's why it works this way, that's why general construction law and all the state laws have done it this way, right? If the taxes aren't paid through the school taxes, the municipality then has to make the school district whole, and then we go after people as the
Right,
foreclosing
but
entity.
You have a small city like Rome,
In
They're
any-
getting $43,500.
in
I don't
any-
think the negotiations on this contract, I think we should be asking more for it.
Honestly, vote no.
Sam, please.
None of the, what you're
Because
arguing.
I'm gonna check with other municipalities in the state,
Jack,
how much the
Councilman,
school is
Councilman, I
paying.
tried to negotiate for more money, we came to an agreement, in which case we're getting more money than they were willing to pay in the first place.
Well, of course.
But my point is, the money, well, and they're waiving $1.5 million. Okay, there's a lot of concessions,
I'd like to take-
but here's my point. The money that they're paying us to collect the taxes, that is a totally separate issue and conversation from whether we're making money or not off of money
But
we're
it's all,
collecting.
it's all in the same agreement.
Point of order, can I have the floor for a
No, I'm
second?
talking, I have the floor, you gave it up.
No, we'll give them the one, they can come after us for 1.5 million, and then you get 40,000 a
I'll
year.
give it to you when I'm done, Sam. I mean, first of all, it's a conflict of interest that you're defending this. You work for the school.
Did your son work for the city?
shouldn't
Did
be
you approve a
talking
budget
about-
while he worked for
I
the city?
work- I-
Exactly,
I-
mind your
I-
business, Jack.
All right, so you shouldn't be talking.
mind
All right?
You should,
Alright.
very much so.
So please, I'm trying to
Totally
be,
out of control.
I'm trying to be respectful here. I'm asking
You're not
respectful
respectful,
questions.
no, whatsoever. Very
Have
disrespectful.
I embarrassed anybody here today asking these questions?
No,
Thank you.
we're just explaining the
Right,
answers, that's fine.
thank you. And I'm not trying to be belligerent, I'm just trying to understand, and for the people that are out there, how the city is gonna work on this, and I think that's fair to everybody. I'm not throwing digs at anybody, I'm just trying to figure out how we're doing it. And I just think that, looking at it, I just think that what we're being charged for what we do, we're using the people, our workers in the city to do this. We're losing money on it. Of course, the state says go ahead and lose money on it. But I think we're also being undercharged for what we're doing. You know, how many people in your office work on this, Brian?
Well, me and the cashiers mainly, I would say.
Right, so we got cashiers every day, and how many hours do you put on?
Diane, I'm
I
sorry.
do the reading. No, that's okay.
I mean, so I think.
But Jack, what would you be happy with, 75,000 versus 35, you're talking $40,000, it's really a small amount in the whole scheme
Well,
of
then I
things
don't
here.
understand why.
This is a good deal, Jack. Our office wouldn't have presented it if we didn't think it was a good deal.
It's a three-year contract, Jack. We can renegotiate after 3 years.
No, we
See how it
could.
goes.
Or we could start off with a half a decent negotiation.
So, can I say one more thing, though? As part of the overall negotiations in totality, they agreed to waive and not come after us for over $1 million worth of back collections. So, while you wanna argue for 75 grand a year for 3 years, that's an extra 80 grand. This negotiation ended them seeking another $1 million from us. So what's more? The taxpayers losing $1 million, or us getting an extra 40 grand a year for 3 years?
So you're letting them blackmail us? is what
No.
you're saying.
No, it's, I got,
It's a
I guess-
contract negotiation.
all right,
Please go.
yeah. So just to,
I-
just to say it from the school district's perspective, you know, and then we'll be quiet. You know, we appreciate the collaborative effort that the team has done in negotiating this agreement. It does make a lot of sense to put an agreement in place before the new superintendent starts on the same day of August 5th. The district has waived and signed a release on the $1.5 million that it had the right to come after and collect. We've doubled what you were getting historically for the payment, or approximately double. You were getting $18,000.
That's under the last.
Under the prior years of collection, it was $18,000,
I agree
correct?
with you there, Frank.
So,
Got that, Jack?
I got it. I
so
agree with you.
the collection amount would be almost double, and it's a 3-year deal. The school board has adopted it and approved it. We would appreciate your voting on it, and thank you for your consideration.
So, and I can I
Very
just,
good, Joe.
may I have a few words too? I know you're using, and again, I don't know you, but I just wanted to help you out.
Please.
You're using Rome as your benchmark. I just did the same contract with Geneva City, and we didn't pay 40 grand. It was more in the low 20s. And if we were to go up to 40 or 45 for 2 months collection that we would be responsible for, we looked at, is that financially feasible for us to do for under 40 grand? It is. Because I can use somebody in my office to do it and just divert their energy to collection. So we were trying to be responsible financially, that if you go up higher, then it's just not feasible for us to do it, because we could do it ourselves cheaper, and with just the cost of the software. So we also had to weigh that, and in my 41 years in education and my 22 years as a superintendent, I've never blackmailed anybody, so, for the record, because I know the video's on. But yes, negotiations sometimes does feel, and you know, I've said things on the radio, sometimes feels like we're being blackmailed on both sides, but that's called negotiations. You know, you try to come to an agreement where, are we 100% thrilled? Probably not on either side, but we finally came to something that everybody was at least comfortable with, that still kept the good relationships. And the bottom line is, whether you do the RAN or we do the RAN, because we were doing the RAN when you went to a 2-year, it's still the same taxpayer. So we also had to look at that. I mean, it's still the same taxpayer, because although you pay back the RAN, there's still, you know, interest that you gotta pay. So either way, it's the same people that are paying the bills, whether it's the school tax or your property tax. I'm a property owner and I know how that works, but, you know, I do think this is a good agreement. You have to vote your conscience, I understand that, but I can tell you that I feel the effort we put into this and the effort the city put into this was a lot of work. It's a year's worth of work to come to this level of an agreement, and I think everybody wins in some way, and most importantly, the kids do win who are connected to the parents who pay the taxes. So I guess I look at it a little more broader than that, and, you know,
And in
hopefully,
3 years,
yeah.
Charlie, if we're broke, we can still wait 2 years to pay them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
We can go back to the good old days.
You're gonna
We
like-
won't be broke, we're gonna be booming.
You're gonna like the
The
new.
mayor will take care of that. All right.
Is that it?
I think so.
Judge had a couple more.
Not my choice.
The only thing I wanted to include, we have before us, and I say we, the common council, a resolution that I read tonight, and that'll finalize this particular negotiation for the period set forth in the contract, correct? That's the end of that for a while. Am I correct? No.
Yeah.
This is just for this agreement for whatever, that's all they're approving.
Correct.
Okay, and the only thing I wanted to add as a taxpayer of the city of Utica, that this law that this is built on, the real property law of the state of New York, I always thought was a bit unconscionable, because in the very end, regardless of what anyone says, and as what Mr. LaMedica was saying, or other people, in the end, when there is a deficit regarding money, it's going to be the Utica taxpayer who pays his taxes that is going to, and ultimately pay that debt. We're going to pay the debt for other people who didn't pay the debt, because the uncollected taxes is just what the term implies. It's uncollected taxes, and someday it may be collected. And I believe that when this law was passed by the legislature, the reason the city of Utica is involved at all is because the city of Utica has the power to foreclose on the property and sell it for unpaid taxes, something that the school board does not do. So we actually became their agent in this. But no matter much how you argue around the table, ultimately, the city of, the Board of Education of Utica does not have a complete legal department. The city of Utica does, and the city of Utica has to, because of these arrangements in the state law, has to utilize its people in that office, how many there are, for that project, because there's a lot of properties involved, and there's a lot of properties that may be taken. And the other thing, the other aspect that, I think somebody mentioned, you know, all of this is for the betterment of the children who go to school, and everybody agrees to that. But for those of you who are not sitting here and have been sitting here for the last 10 years, or how many you've been sitting here, every time we try to evict some older person from a property to be taken for taxes, this building fills up with people that just tell us, don't do it. And of course, people like Mr. Brown has to come down and tell them, we have to do it, and they have to go. And so there's a lot of other elements that come into consideration here. And when you have sat here a long period of time, whether you're a councilman or Mr. Brown's been here at least 100 years,
Between us, I think we got that.
you know, it does utilize a great deal of the resources of the city of Utica, as the mayor will find out, that they're doing an awful lot of work on behalf of a client who is really not their client. But ultimately, he has to become their client by the relationship of a state law. So I think that it should be clear that it is right to ask as many questions as you can, because these are the questions taxpayers will ask you, is why we indemnify the school board at all. And the only thing I always said, and I agree with Mr. Brown, we read the law, we have to, really. We didn't pass that law, the state did, but that's the whole law. But so I think to answer your question, Mr. Lemetico, yes, ultimately the Utica taxpayer who pays his taxes regularly, in the end, pays a lot more than he bargained for. And that is, to me, a bit unfair, but I admit, according to the comptroller, probably, it's unavoidable. And according to state law for the legal department, it's also unavoidable. So everybody should understand that the city of Utica gives just a lot more than just this money. It gives its people and its personnel and jams up their office pretty good. So, and I think they should be congratulated for the job that they've done all through the years complying with the state statute. I know personally how hard they work. Thank you, that's all I have to say.
I had one more question. Joe, you got a question?
I just want to confirm one thing before we.
Go ahead.
So I know there was talk up there, this legislation was given to us at the last council meeting.
Right.
And it was put in committee, so it's been there. So now we vote on it the next meeting, correct?
No, next meeting you have a meeting and you can introduce it.
I don't think, this has not been in committee yet. I mean, it isn't that, we haven't put this in.
This is not a meeting.
Yes,
I know
Judge,
if we had a-
that's why I'm
I
asking.
gotta
This,
see if we had a committee.
Judge,
We put this, I gotta look if we
excuse
put it in
me,
committee.
excuse me, Judge, this was handed out to us at the last council meeting. We said it was handed to us 5 minutes, please put it in committee, and we called this meeting. So it's been in there. That's my point that I want to make clear.
You can't pass it tonight.
No, we're not voting tonight, but when we vote on this, this does not have to be 9-0. It's a resolution, it needs to be at least 5 votes.
Correct.
Okay? So I hope all you guys, we took our time out, it's a hot summer night, we all came here, and I think we did a good job, so thank you, everybody, for coming.
I had one more question. When we take over properties now, all right, I know there was a change of the law on how we do it. How does it affect how much our collection on that then?
Doesn't affect collections.
It doesn't affect collections.
It doesn't affect
That's what we
collections.
take by selling properties, we can only
And-
make what was.
And that discussion is
Only
well
what
beyond the
was
bounds
al-
of this.
Yes, and it
meeting.
affects the county too, because we give them a third of our auction off properties.
But it's not a discussion for tonight's meeting.
The actual answer to that right now is Corporation Council and the Urban and Economic Development Office are currently working out how we will deal with that.
It's a nightmare.
Because right now, we can't sell it for, we only could sell it for what we
Well,
only
we can
could,
sell it for what we want.
but we only could keep what's owed on the taxes, is that
Correct.
correct?
Not necessarily.
Maybe we could put
Less
administrative
expenses,
fees in.
less
there.
expenses. It's no, they're making us no different than a bank. So we're working that out as a municipal now.
We'll make sure there's expenses.
All right.
All right.
Are you done? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
That's
a separate discussion.
Wait a minute, we're not, you just can't do that, Sam. You just, I'm running this meeting first of all, all right? You're very, Sam, you're very rude. No, you're just a very rude person. No, I'll go, I'm just,
Mike,
I
we
hope
gotta
you
go
see
upstairs
what
and
you
do
have.
press release.
Thank you.
That's,
One
Dr.
second.
Davis is
So
the
let's
boss
go.
anyway.
All right.
It's pretty bad.
Thank you all for being here.